So as I mentioned earlier, our students have been hard at work since about October, September, doing this part-time course. So 2 hours, 5 days a week. Our students have been supporting each other through this very, very condensed curriculum. I can't imagine anything more stressful than taking a 3-month course that is intended for a 6-hour day and cramming that into 2 hours of instruction. But despite that immense challenge, all of the students here have been incredibly supportive of each other. They have learned at an incredible rate. And on top of the commitments of work, family, and life, they have managed to both find time to regularly attend the classes as well as build this capstone project that is going to serve as a demonstration of everything that they've learned throughout this course. So our first presenter was also our first student. He was in many ways the genesis for the beta cohort. He was the one who initially inspired me to teach 5 days a week on top of the commitments of creating the curriculum and do a real test with real students. And what started out as a intended to be small 1 to 2 person team unexpectedly grew to a full cohort of incredibly committed students. So I am incredibly honored and grateful to invite John to present what he has been so hard working at.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Brooke. I'm going to start by saying that I share the sentiment of the moment. It is charged with emotion, with accomplishment, and it's a magical moment, as you said. There's plenty of faces that were just strangers a few weeks, couple of months ago, and now I feel that they're friends. We've been in the trenches. We know what it is to go through this, and I'm going to stop talking about my classmates and make good use of the time and start presenting what is my capstone, which is called NSDR, which goes for non-sleep deep rest. Non-sleep deep rest is a series of meditation practice that have been kind of taken away from their traditions of origin. So they are very kind of agnostic in their approach. But for those of you who do not know me in this room, I don't think there's many of them. I'm going to introduce myself again, even though Brooke just did. My name is John. I go by the handle Big Spaces. I'm an absolute newbie in this craft, and I want to tell you a bit about how this project came to be. As many things that happened in 2023, they started back during a certain lockdown that we all know about. In Spain, we were almost 3 months locked down, so we went a bit nuts. Even the dog wanted to do yoga and escape the flat. And marbles were on the brink of being lost. But I met this guy called Trevor. He's a yogi. He is a Californian yogi, and he is responsible for teaching me how to relax and to empty my mind. He's the first person that methodologically took me to places that I hadn't been, and that was a gift because there was nowhere else I could go but inside of myself during lockdown. So once those marbles were recovered, I tried to upload some of those meditations in my own language, Spanish, into YouTube. And wouldn't you know, YouTube started responding positively. And I thought, what if we did a side gig with that? And we took what we're learning about Elixir to create a subscription app that could make me filthy rich. And the premise, and I'm going to describe how it would work, is very straightforward. We would present the user with choices, what type of practice, duration of practice, what type of background track. Bob's your uncle. You have your own crafted meditation that you can use to your own delight. And because this is a very storytelling way of saying things, and Q is my mentor and is in the house, I'm also going to do it the engineer way. Thanks to Q, shout out. This is how you do it if you are a proper engineer. You use Mermaid and you use use cases and arrows and engineer speak. So That's something I learned and I had to hone it down. So that's basically the project. That's the requirement. 3 choices, 3 pages, and press play. So let me tell you about what it was to develop this. First of all, I mean, we need a number of things. I thought, well, I need something to play sound. I need to customize meditation practice. I need a sort of graphical interface. I need my user to be able to subscribe. How am I going to charge him in the future if I don't make them subscribe? And hopefully in the future, this will turn into a mobile app. God only knows, LiveView native. I would love to provide more granular customization of the practice. At the moment, it's very basic. It works, but it's very basic. And hopefully a paid subscription. Why not? People like to subscribe to things. We live in this subscription ethos these days. So let's start with how to play sound. To me, once I did my research, the obvious choice was the Membrane framework. I don't know if you know. For those of you who don't know, this is their website. They claim to be able to handle audio and multimedia, and they produce a framework in Elixir. And my idea was to choose different audio snippets that I would have prearranged. I would create a playlist. I would mix it in real time with a background track, and I would stream it to my audience. And that's when Zorn and Brooke said, like, why don't you try to play a simple MP3 first? And I went like, I'm not going through 4 months of bootcamp to just play a simple HTML MP3 like a loser. So Zorn told me, give yourself a time limit, try and implement it, and then, to change approach. That's what I did. So I spent 2 weeks working with Membrane. I actually interviewed some of the developers, and I'm going to show you how it resulted after 2 weeks of working with Membrane. It was more or less like that. So thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Zorn, for letting me fail and be humbled. And after I recovered from that, we went to implementation number 2, which took 4 hours of uninterrupted coding in the Elixir newbie hackathon. And it ended up being the HTML MP3 player that I dreaded but worked. So shout out to Brooke and to the Elixir newbie hackathon, because it's simple but it works. And then Brooke topped it all off with this, which is not 1 but 2 HTML players that you can hide from a user's view with the class hidden, and with the class hidden quotes, and then we can trigger them using a JavaScript action through an HTML button. So that would accomplish what I wanted to do. It's seamless to the user, and I can play the narration of the practice plus the background. So that's the sound sorted. What else do we have? Well, we needed to customize the meditation practice. The user would choose the type of practice, the duration, the background track. And how do we present this? How do we keep track of those choices? How do we use them to choose the correct MP3? Then again, shout out to Zorn. Keep it simple, student. Just query params. In my head, I thought database and global variables that don't exist in Elixir because there's no global variables. Just a very basic query param string. We could use that. Zorn coached me through the initial part of the implementation, and Brooke did the second part. And we implemented this in a Phoenix dead view thing. Like, we would render through the router like a page number 1 with the choices, page number 2 with the choices, page number 3 with the choices. Then page number 4 would have a message: you've chosen this type of practice, and this is your meditation. You press play, and then you can subscribe, and everything was beauty. And it worked until we realized that if you were playing the meditation practice and you subscribe while it was being played, obviously Phoenix would reload the page and stop the MP3 being played. So that's what we call a big fail, and that took us to having to implement it all again in LiveView. And it made complete sense because we only had to load the diffs, and we would just call a function for choice 1, another function for choice 2, another function for choice 3. Still, we would store those choices in the query params, and at the end of it, you get the player, you get the form, and if you fill the form to subscribe, you only load the diff, so the MP3 keeps playing in the background. So I'm going to show you a bit how it works. It would be, you would have the three choices. You would go, I want to do an inner practice, inner silence practice. I want to do it for 30 minutes. I want nature effects in the background. This is my practice. I can press play. You would possibly hear my Spanish voice doing things here. And now I can go, Brooke, email, Brooke at elixir.io. It works. So that's good. That's good. So what else can I tell you about this? I'm gonna tell you things. Well, first of all, victory. So that's nice. Yeah. And then I'm just gonna put a form there. Yeah, just why not? Just a form. Yeah, generations, validations, database, Hecto, SendGrid, shoes, APIs, Git ignore. It's like it's a mess, but it works. It works. It just took a while, especially with Git and Git ignore and the environmental variables. That was tricky. I'm not gonna go into detail because I know that I'm pushing on minute 9, but let me just tell you that it does work. Look at the can you see my screen? How SendGrid? Okay, brilliant. SendGrid keeps canceling my account because for some reason I keep uploading my API through some history thing that is happening on GitHub that I haven't managed to troubleshoot. So still a lot to learn, but there we go. What else? We had to do some styling. Of course, we have CSS Tailwind together with LiveView, together with Phoenix, together with abstraction of functions and forms that pass on the parameters in the assigns and all of the tricky little moving parts that LiveView has and Hicks and, fascinating. I wouldn't be able to explain it to you in the next 10 seconds that I have to finish the presentation, but that was a lot that was learned, and thank you to all my coaches. And finally, deployment. And I'm quite happy about this one because we deployed to fly.io, but we implemented continuous integration and continuous deployment. We set the environmental variables in fly.io, so my deployed application actually talks to SendGrid. It's kind of amazing. I would never look at forms and emails the same. And that's a bit of that. We can only say thank you, especially to Brooke. Man, what you have pulled here is amazing. My other mentors, especially Q and Zorn, who have been instrumental in guiding me through the good path. And of course, all of my classmates, you're there. Ithia, Bill, Jeff, Andrew, Swami, Jeremy, Russell, Abdullah, Byron, Stefan, and all of this Discord gang. The Elixir newbie gang, Angel, who's not here today, who got me into Elixir, family and friends. This has been a phenomenal effort. And here I am. I'm done. So any questions, whatever you want, I'm all yours.
Well done. Outstandingly well done. I feel like we need to issue a formal apology to the Membrane framework. That is not their, surprisingly, that's not actually their homepage.
That's not their home. That's how I saw it as a newbie. Okay, if anybody from Membrane is seeing this, I love you guys. Thank you for your availability. You were super helpful. You're just way above my current level of understanding, and that's what I meant by that little joke. Let's all have a giggle, okay?
I'll be sending an apology email later. So now we transition to question time. So we have about 5 minutes, however much time it takes to kind of go through. So folks can ask questions if they're curious about the tech stack. They can just make comments as long as they're kind. If you have questions about how is something built, what were hard parts, now's the time to ask. So does anyone have questions? It's open to current students and future students and anyone else who's here. Bill.
I think the most pressing question is, when are you going to start your class for doing PowerPoint presentations and presentation?
That was
really well done.
To set the tone and not make it so that whoever has to follow John feels too much pressure. That was above and beyond the level of presentation requested for our demo day. I assume most folks will be showing the application, walking through. So outstanding, using the amazing presentation skills that you have to really add to the wow factor of that. That was really impressive, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
John, how many hours a day did you work on that?
I couldn't tell you. I mean,
asked you earlier.
once we finished kind of the bulk of things and we started doing the capstone, I used the weekends that Brooke had available with the hackathon to just jump there and try things out. And so I would say that the last month was like every week was a significant amount of time devoted to it. And I also have to say that a lot of the main progress was done when I had somebody by my side. Like I would say that 80%, 90% of the code that is written in my app is thanks to Brooke sitting with me or somebody else sitting with me or the hackathon thing. Like if I do not see this as, oh, I did this and they helped me along the way. I see this more like, come on, dude, you can walk it, come on. And people helping me a lot. So it's difficult for me to take the credit. It has been a lot of what Brooke has given through this channel and the Elixir Newbie Hackathon thing and the time that so many people have gifted. So
While I know how much the mentors in this community have supported, I also want to highlight how hard John has worked. On top of juggling multiple different jobs, being a podcast producer, the many different things that are on his plate, has found the time to put so much effort into this. So extremely well done, John.
thank you.
I think we have time for one last question. And I'm just going to say, feel free to just jump up for the future questions. Feel free to post in the chat if that helps or if that's more comfortable for people. But also feel free to just jump up and speak.
Less a question, more a statement of congratulations. I love your project, your presentation, the music, the theme of it, and I went to the website nsdr.fly.dev and I started to play around with it a little bit myself, put my email in. So I look forward to seeing all the further progress that you make on this.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.